Half the rappers from the East Coast was there when they got shot. Nobody knew a thing. That's just like you coming to the hood and the police ask him what happened. And everybody was like, I don't know. You know, they're lying. A rare audio clip from Tupac has been making its rounds on social media because the deceased rapper claimed that he knew that Diddy and Biggie had plotted against him and were either involved or were the ones who orchestrated his shooting. The audio is from a time when Biggie and Tupac were no longer friends, but rather rap rivals, and Tupac claimed that Diddy and Biggie knew about his shooting, but feigned ignorance while there were some smaller kerfuffles between Tupac and Biggie. The first big fallout happened when they were scheduled to work on a project together for another rapper. Little Sean and Tupac ended up shot. Tupac went to Times Square's Quad Recording Studios and was getting ready to head upstairs to where Biggie and Combs were. But unfortunately, someone mugged him. Tupac was gunned down in the lobby and shot 5 times, but he luckily survived the attack. Tupac believed Biggie might have something to do with it, even though they did make it upstairs to see them right after the incident. He might have been correct on his assumption that Biggie did know of the assault because a close friend of Big claimed he had seen PAC and told Big that PAC was in the studio. Big had then told them to take PAC's place in the studio. But when he went down to get packed, they saw a gunned, armed man who told them to go away. The friend Lil Cease then went back to tell this to Big, who went down for PAC only for them to realize that Tupac was already shot 5 times and robbed. There was never proof that Biggie or Diddy knew about the incident, but they definitely must have known because a couple of months later, Biggie's B-side single was a track called Who Shot Ya, which led to Tupac's response with the song Hit Him Up in it, too. Pac claimed he slept with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans, who denied the claim, saying, "That ain't how I do business." While Tupac and Biggie were arguably the biggest rivalry in music history, they both ended up dead just as their careers were skyrocketing. Tupac was gunned down on September 7, 1996, and died 6 days later, while Biggie was shot and killed 6 months later on March 9, 1997. Despite their rivalry, the one thing that there's no question about is that they started off as friends when Big and PAC first met. They loved each other since they had a lot in common. Both grew up without fathers and loved music and rap. Pac even advised Big to focus on selling his music to women, which helped Big a lot in his career. According to a Vice excerpt of the book Original Gangsters: The Untold Story of Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, Ice Cube, Tupac Shakur, and the Birth of West Coast Rap by Ben Westhoff, Biggie had asked a drug dealer to introduce him to Tupac at a Los Angeles party where they hit it off immediately. An intern named Dan Smalls, who worked with Biggie, recalled the meeting, saying Pat walks into the kitchen and starts cooking for us. He's in the kitchen, cooking some steaks. We went into the kitchen and he had steaks and French fries and bread and Kool-Aid. And we just sitting there eating and drinking and laughing. That's truly where Bacon PAC friendship started. There was mutual respect between the two rappers as well as their friend groups. Biggie's friends thought Tupac was a dope rapper and PAC thought Biggie was a talented friend and artist. Some stories report that Tupac even gave Biggie a Hennessy bottle as a gift. They became so close that Biggie would crash on Tupac's couch when he was in California, and Tupac would always stop by Biggie's neighborhood when he was in New York. In essence, they were like any other pair of friends. The potential greatness of their combined talents was also evident when they freestyled together at the 1993 Budweiser Superfest at New York City's Madison Square Garden. Biggie often turned to Tupac for advice in the business, and he even asked him to manage his career. But Tupac said he didn't like mixing business with friendship and told him to stay with Diddy. Their friendship came to a halt after the Quad Studio incident where Tupac was shot, and he came to believe Biggie knew about the attack ahead of time. Tupac reached out to Suge Knight while in jail, and Suge not only bailed him out, but he also offered him a place on his Death Row Records roster. Tupac accepted, cementing the rivalry between Knight's label and Co's Bad Boy Records. Any artist out there that wants to be an artist, stay a star, and won't have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the records, dancing come to Death Row. Knight had proclaimed a direct diss to Diddy. Tupac's fame increased after his jail sentence because of surviving 5 shots, and Big Ben released his legendary single, Who Shot Ya, which was taken as a diss, although he claimed it was not after being signed to Death Row. Tupac released one of the most selling hip-hop albums of all time called All Eyes on Me. That made him the first rapper to get the #1 spot in Billboard Hot 100 with California Love and How Do You Want It Without a Pause. He then released his most known diss track, Hit 'Em Up, where he dissed Big, saying that Big set him up in quad, copied his style, and he also claimed to have had a thing with Biggie's wife, Faith. The dissing didn't just stop there. In his interviews, Tupac said he loved Big and he did a lot for him, and that Big owed PAC, more than saying he didn't know about the quad setup. He also said that their beef wasn't that big and that magazines were heating the beef with 2 PAC diss tracks. The streets went wild and everybody was talking about it. East vs West feud was on after hearing the diss the first time Big went home mad and asked Faith if what Tupac claimed in his diss was the truth. Faith said she didn't know about what happened between PAC and Big, and that PAC had told her he was a fan of her music and wanted to offer her a deal with Death Row. They decided to trust Faith because he knew Tupac was only trying to hurt him. At Lil Cece's birthday party, Big gave an interview, and when he was asked about PAC, he said he would deal with him if he came to New York. Vash said he was planning on releasing his new album and that he didn't need the East vs West theme to sell his albums. Big was right. Hit 'Em Up wasn't able to damage him as an MC who didn't talk about his personal life. The album was as big as all his other albums, but it also elevated Tupac heavily. Sadly, Tupac passed away after PAC's step. Big went back to California to squash their beef, and he made it clear in his song Going Back to Cali that his problem was with PAC, not the whole West Coast. He also performed Hypnotize, and after the performance, he left with his crew to go to a party. Unfortunately, when Big returned from the party, he got shot just like Tupac, and on March 9, 1997, he passed away. While Tupac's murder was never solved, some people claim that it was Diddy who silenced him to make Biggie the bigger rapper. In a recently released documentary, Murder Rap, retired LAPD detective Greg Kading claimed that Diddy hired a Crips gang member to kill Tupac during the height of the Bad Boy Entertainment and Death Row Records beef. Puff Daddy remained quiet on the subject until when he was asked by The Breakfast Club host Charlie Magny to address the reports that he put a hit on Tupac. Diddy said, "We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother, so we're not even going to go there. With all due respect, I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you." The radio show personality and his co-host, Angela Yee and DJ Envy, expressed appreciation for Diddy's honesty and collective response to the controversial topic. Diddy says that he had grown a lot throughout his career and had been making a conscious effort to maintain his composure as he's grown in the industry, regardless of their beef. Both Biggie and Tupac were big rappers. They were two of the most talented hip-hop rappers on the scene at the time, and they both were dedicated to exposing the truth of the tribulations of life on the streets, social injustice, and the racial divide. The biggest difference between Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls is that they represented different coasts. Hope wherever they went, they managed to become friends again. A fan on Twitter said it's going on 30 years and Tupac and Biggie still hold a high impact in hip-hop. They ain't even make it to 30, barely over 25. Another said, "I've always wondered who killed John Bennett. Tupac and Biggie just always blew my mind that such high-profile crimes couldn't be solved anyways." Let's not forget that this video is based on theories and my opinions and should not be considered facts. That's it for this video. Bye.